Welcome back to Bazooka Kickboxing and MMA. Today's episode, powered by Hayabusa, is all about shadowboxing. I'm going to give you 5 tips to improve your shadowboxing so you don't feel stupid doing it. In today's episode, we're going to talk about 5 different tips that you can use in your shadowboxing to not look stupid. And that's the question I get all the time. How do I shadowbox without looking dumb, right? I mean, it's hard. You're fighting the air. You don't know what you're doing. There's no direction. So that's what makes shadowboxing really difficult for a lot of people, from beginners to even intermediates. If you don't know how to shadowbox, it's overwhelming. You go to your classes, maybe even if your first week, even first year of training, and your coach says, all right, guys, we're going to warm up with shadowboxing, right? That's a simple concept to someone who's done martial arts for a while, but when you're new, and even as a coach here at Bazooka Kickboxing, when I say things like that by mistake sometimes, and I'm like, oh, they don't know what they're doing, I right away have to go and help them to show that it's not as intimidating and advanced as you think it is, okay? We need to simplify it and make things work for you, okay? The last thing you want to be in a martial arts class, in a kickboxing gym, is to feel uncomfortable. And in most places, the first thing is shadowboxing, okay? So let's make you look like a professional with these 5 tips. The first one is going to be just focus on footwork and stepping. That's the first thing you need to do, right? There's no direction. So if you're going to start punching and not going wild, you're just going to look sloppy. So take your time, relax, and just work even simple box stepping. Move around the gym, have your hands up, just show what you know what you're doing. You've seen bounces, stepping, just work on good quality footwork, right? Even at the most advanced level, footwork is the most important. So just focus on that to start with. Move slowly around the gym, okay? The 2 things I would suggest for beginners is working the box step, right? Just even using the lines, going across, learning to not cross your feet, all right? Simple. Maybe adding quarter turns, Simple things like that will just make you look a little bit more advanced if your feet aren't sloppy. Okay? So the second thing you want to do is work on stationary striking, okay? You don't have to throw all these big fancy things when it comes to shadowboxing, right? With that good stepping from tip 1, right? Use stationary strikes, right? So in all of my tutorials, and if you go to bazookatraining.com now and go to the tutorial section, you'll see that I use tape lines to explain all the stepping, the lines, the angles. That's very important to practice, okay? So by studying that type of footwork, shadowboxing becomes easier at that point, okay? So what does stationary striking mean? So instead of moving, stepping, just focus on the line. Stepping and coming back, right? Step and come back. If you're newer, that's going to look better than you trying to throw 5 kick-punch combination strikes and it gets all crazy and messy, okay? Stationary striking. One of the biggest problems people try to do is they try to strike and move at the same time, so this is where technique falls down, okay? So good stepping and good single stationary type striking, okay? Now, the third point we're going to do is having set combinations, all right? Now, like I mentioned, there is no instruction a lot of times when it comes to shadowboxing, so you don't know what to do. So in your mind, simplify it, right? Pick one combination you want to work on, whether it's punch to kick, kick to punch, just boxing. And that also depends on your level. If you're new, maybe just throw 1-2. Good stepping, with stationary striking and set combinations, 1-2. So you notice all the tips building together is going to make you look like a professional. So if you're stepping well, before you strike, you stay nice and strong in your foot, you attack stationary, then you move again, right? And then once you get comfortable with the one combination, you can start changing the types of combinations, okay? But keep it simple first if you're more of a beginner, okay? And as a coach watching this, right, remember that your students might not feel comfortable shadowboxing. So what I do with my beginners is I'll give them the set combination to work on during shadowboxing, okay? Your advanced students, by all means, you should be shadowbox. And then within their shadowboxing, you can give them cues like pressure fight, evade, use counter striking, kick fight, box, head movement, right? You bring in scenarios and fight concepts, and then they have to show it. But as a beginner, give them simple set combinations to work and how to throw it properly, okay? So step with the jab, turn your hip over on the hand, maybe throw a left kick, step down and return, right? By giving them them those simple, small steps and cues, right? They can move, they can shadow box, they can practice this, and it doesn't feel as dumb to them at that point, okay? So, stationary and set combinations. Now, number 4, this is more for, you're a little bit more advanced, but you're still not comfortable, okay? So number 4, to make you look like a professional shadow boxer, is adding in defense and counters. So even though there's no opponent, I can be here, 1, 2, block, block, hook, cross. So you can see midway, I'm using blocks and countering in between. Same thing here with my legs, boom. I can use leg blocks to bring up my technique. So I'm using punches, blocks, kicks, counters, head movement, you know? So I'm using different types of defense within the shadow boxing. And right away, when you see someone shadow boxing, blocking kicks, countering with their kicks, flowing well, already you see something, you know, build into a more advanced shadow boxing. So you can add, as a beginner, you can still add this principle, right, to make yourself look advanced. So the concept that I like to add to my beginners is combination, block, counter, right? So combo, block, counter, right? So simple thing, 1, 2, maybe a block, counter. So again, 1, 2, maybe block, block, counter. So using the idea of strike, blocking, and countering will just make you look like a professional, because that's what fighting is. It's not always one way. You have to remember the defensive part of the side as well. So when doing this type of drilling, this is where you can start thinking about, you know, having an opponent in front of you, right? Visualization when it comes to shadow boxing is important, right? But again, a beginner, what are they visualizing? They've never sparred, they've never been in a fight. The only visualization they have is maybe watching, you know, fights on the UFC, or they've been training at home at bazookatraining.com and they see my videos in training, but now is the time to visualize what's happening. So this is where you can give the instruction, okay? You're gonna throw a jab and then someone is gonna kick your leg, block the leg, step down, throw your cross, right? So you're giving them that simple defensive built into their system, okay? So attack, adding blocking and countering into your shadow boxing, right? Now, the 5th and final point that I like to add is, I call it adding style and rhythm, okay? Now, the first thing you notice when someone doesn't know what to do with shadow boxing is very stiff, right? Stiff, eyes looking around, not knowing and unsure. And then when they do throw, there's a lot of overthinking, right? Of course, it's the beginning of martial arts, you're not understanding, but this is the time for you to kind of encourage, you know, even just movement of rhythm and fluidity. And this is why you'll see a lot of the Cuban, you know, boxers trained to music to get that rhythm in the footwork, the stepping, and the bounce. So what I mean by adding rhythm is when you're walking or you're stationary, you don't have to sit here with your hands planted on your head, right? And then be very stiff, right? Adding the bounce, right? Adding these pendulum bounces in between, you know? I'm not stepping, I'm not doing much, but you can tell me walking this way versus me bouncing in my footwork adds rhythm, adds style, right? So adding the bounce. I also say adding a feint, right? So even though, you know, you might not be that pro fighter, but adding a feint before your combination is gonna make your shadow boxing look more advanced, right? So bouncing, feinting, right? Showing feints, right? Now adding head movement and rolling, right? So now by bouncing, feinting, using my head movement, you could already see how I'm starting to look a little bit more advanced when it comes to my shadow boxing, okay? So quick recap for you guys, because I think this is an important concept, because shadow boxing, hear it all the time, even people who've been training for many, many years. I feel stupid shadow boxing, how can I fix it? I just give you the 5 perfect ways to do it, okay? So starting with good footwork, make yourself look good. Using stationary, hard combinations that allow you to work the technique. Very important, okay? Then adding set combos, drill the combo, right? Once you have good combinations, put them together, move well, right? You're moving, set your feet, hard combinations, move after, okay? But then we're gonna add that rhythm, the style, the bouncing, and then the defense and counters, and then all of a sudden you've created a whole fight style. And this is when, one, your shadow boxing is gonna look better, but you're gonna translate that shadow boxing into your sparring, into your fight. fights a lot better, right? Create the fight in your head. All my advanced guys who shadow box, right? Create a scenario, create a concept. In my head when I'm shadow boxing, right? I'm thinking, all right, now he throws a kick. Boom, I block the kick, I counter. Okay, now he's gonna throw his right straight at me. Nope, I'm gonna slip it, and then I'm gonna counter, and I'm gonna evade. So in my head, I'm talking through a story, I'm making a fight, and that's how you have to visualize. Attack, visualize the counterattack, you blocking the counterattack, and then counter back yourself, moving your feet. All of a sudden, you've created a fight and a skill set that's gonna help you. And this is how shadow boxing before a fight's gonna help you. Shadow boxing before your training is gonna help you because it's translating and becoming a real fight scenario visualized in your head. Okay, hope you enjoyed today's episode and continue to support the channel by one, supporting HayabusAFight.com and checking out all of their gear. Perfect Sports Nutrition code Bazooka20 to get 20% off your order. That Altered State pre-workout has getting me amped up for all of my workouts lately. BazookaShop.com for your Bazooka merchandise. And last but not least, BazookaTraining.com for only $9.99 US a month. You get full access to workouts from myself. I have gym workouts, right, where you're using your bag, home workouts that you can do from home, and weekly tutorials. And we are adding a sparring drills section. So lots to learn for only $9.99 a month. Sign up, and if you use the code Bazooka25, you get 25% off your first month, okay? Lots of learning happening outside of YouTube, right? YouTube is just giving you the teasers. If you want to get into the information, the details, the system of the Bazooka curriculum, right, bazookatraining.com. Right? This is just a teaser. Get the main learning from the website. All right, we'll see you next time here at Bazooka Kickboxing and MMA.
Over 1 year in lockdown, an empty gym, a divided community, many questions unanswered.
They're doing the best they can, trying to save their business.
But on one man's 36th birthday, he decided to fight back. Subscribe now for only $9.99 USD a month. BazookaTraining.com.